On this episode of Sweet Tea and Economy, we are going to chat with Charlotte celebrity, Charlotte legend, Connie Vetter, attorney at law, about the different areas that her attorney practice does cover and what insight she has for us as a chamber, to our followers, and get to know her a little bit better. So thank you so much, Connie, for being on today.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. I loved your pulling up in your really cool sports car with queer law on the license bag. So you're very easy to spot.
Thank you. Thank you. I haven't been keyed yet, so.
Okay. Well, yeah. That's one to put a feather to put in your hat there. So tell me a little bit more about yourself. I read your LinkedIn. I know a little bit about you, but for our followers, how long have you lived in Charlotte?
So I've lived in Charlotte for a little over 30 years.
Okay.
I'm from the Midwest and came here. I was in Boston for a few years, and I came here after being in Boston, and I came here specifically to open my practice.
Okay, interesting. And what does your practice focus on?
So at this point, I do adoptions, name changes and gender marker corrections, and wills, powers of attorney, and estate planning documents. And let me interject here. I do need to say, the bar requires me to say that we're having a conversation.
Yes.
I'm not giving legal advice to you or anybody else, and there's no attorney-client relationship form. For the most part, my discussion, I think, will be about North Carolina law. That's where I'm licensed. From context, you may be able to tell that I'm talking about federal law or something like that.
Okay.
But it's my pleasure to be here.
Okay, fabulous. And I'm glad you made your disclaimer. And we don't want to get you in trouble. We need amazing people like you to continue practicing and taking care of us. So take care of your business. So many of our listeners are under 40. A lot of them are going to be in the LGBTQ community. You were mentioning that, yes, you're barred in North Carolina, and the specific areas of practice that you are. For North Carolina, what are some unique legal considerations that people under 40 might need to consider?
In the areas of law that I practice in, it's not bad. So, for example, I guess one thing that's kind of unique is couples who are married, who have children. If one of them birthed that child, or they had that child through surrogacy, or one of them had adopted, then the other one can do, we call it a confirmation step-parent adoption. But they can do an adoption and get legal footing as a full legal parent, equal with the adoptive or genetic parent. And the genetic parent, or the birth parent, doesn't lose their rights. So the spouse in the adoption. So that's really great. And it varies by county a little bit. But what I don't like is that some counties require people to have a social worker come to their home and visit and write a report, and that makes sense in a standard step-parent adoption where, somebody has a child from a previous relationship, meets somebody at some future date, they get married, and then that person adopts. And so the court kind of wants to know, is this person okay? In ours, these are people these are not accidental children, right? So couples who have children together, adopt together, is part of a plan. And so they're already a family.
An expensive plan too.
Yes. So they're already a family, which is why I call it a confirmation adoption. So that can kind of surprise people about, one, that it's possible, and two, that depending on what county you're in and how long you've been married, you may end up having to do things that you shouldn't have to do, like have a social worker come and look at your home. Okay.
Is there a website or a resource that you would direct somebody to see if they're at risk for that by county?
No, there's not. What somebody can do is call the clerk of superior court in their county and speak to the adoptions department, or work with an attorney who works in that county.
Okay, so either go to the clerk of superior court in that county or an attorney in that county.
Right. When it comes to the law, there's a lot of misinformation and just flat out wrong information on the internet, or it's information specific to the area of the person who's providing the information and not statewide or national-wide.
Okay. In order to combat misinformation, is there a way to check out if this attorney is reputable? Do you look at Google reviews? Like, what is your favorite way of seeing if somebody is reputable or they're worth the time to talk to?
Sure. So one way is looking at their website, looking at their experience, looking at what bar associations they belong to. So, for example, I belong to the Pauli Murray LGBTQ plus Bar Association here in North Carolina, and I also belong to the National LGBTQ plus Bar Association. Okay. And the national organization has an annual Lavender Law conference.
Okay.
And I go to that every year. Even though I've been doing this a long time, I always want to learn. I always want to know the most up to date. But yeah, also you ask around. And I mean, for better or for worse, it's nice that there are people who are focusing on our community. What's not nice is there are people who haven't put in the work. I mean, every business has that, right? They don't put in the work. They just want to cash the check.
Sure. Okay. I apologize. Where are my manners? Would you like some sweet tea?
I would, please.
We are the sweet tea in the economy, so we got to pour up some tea.
Yes, of course.
So you said you're from the Midwest. Did you grow up drinking sweet tea, or was that an acquired sort of thing, or what?
Not really. We didn't. We just had tea.
Okay.
Just regular tea.
All right. Well, there you are. I know we don't have ice, but it's been in the refrigerator.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
cold.
fantastic.
It won't water down. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's from Cracker Barrel, right up the street. Shout out to Cracker Barrel.
You can't leave the Cracker Barrel without buying something.
Oh, no.
They have the best shopping there. It's like Aldi. I didn't even know I needed that.
That was my grandmother's favorite store. Well, used to be. I think she's upgraded to something else. But yeah, she would go eat at Cracker Barrel and then go shopping and get whatever. So
absolutely,
there was always something for Christmas from Cracker Barrel.
They got good stuff.
Okay, so let's see. Proactive planning. So you mentioned adoptions. You mentioned legal protections for married couples. You also were talking about, I think you touched on estate planning, all that sort of situation. Wills. A lot of those topics are very uncomfortable for people. Right. And people think it might be morbid, or, oh, I don't have anything to protect, or I'm not dying, I don't need this.
Right.
To somebody that's under 40 that might not have $1 million in the bank, proactive planning, why? What's your pitch?
It's all about control. And I'll tell you, when I was in law school, I took estate planning as an elective, something to fill out my schedule. And it switched for me when I realized it's not about death, it's not about illness, it's not about any of that. It's all about control. So, for example, if somebody dies without a will, the state law already has a plan in place. The state law already has a plan that says who gets your stuff. And if you have children, potentially kind of how your children are going to be, who are they going to? So that's already been done. So what I tell people of any age is doing these documents is frankly no more morbid than having life insurance, because life insurance has one purpose, and you kind of can't. It's in the name, and so this is about control. This is about, for example, doing your will. This is about saying, thank you very much, State of North Carolina. Understand you already have a plan for me. I'm going to make my own plan, and all a will is just written instructions. That's all it is. It's just written instructions. It's not about what you have. It's about what you want to do with it. And frankly, I would highly encourage people who are younger, beginning their career, midway through their career, go ahead and get it done. One, because the hospital is full of people who didn't think they were going to get sick or hurt or in an accident. And people die at all ages. I mean, we're lucky if you live to be older, but that tomorrow's never guaranteed, right? So doing it now when it's easier in the sense that, you don't have complications like, frankly, high wealth or blended families or whatever it might be. Do it when it's easy, get it done, and then you're just kind of making changes as things change. I highly encourage, especially people who are in relationships and don't marry. Nobody should have to get married in order to do this. People have all kinds of relationships. People have multiple partner relationships. That's all fine. But it's nice to protect yourself and protect your people by taking control and doing these documents. Again, they're just instructions. They're just documents that are designed to speak for you, say what you want them to say at the time that you need them to speak for you.
Yeah. So don't overcomplicate it. Just take control of your life.
It's just instructions.
Okay. Got it. Let's see. What else can we talk about? More about you specifically. Why law? Why did you choose the legal career you did?
I've been an activist since college, and I decided that I could take my activism to another level by going to law school and kind of understanding the rules and being able to use them to my benefit and to my community's benefit. And so that's what, like I said, I was in Boston at the time that I went to law school, and I made the decision to come to Charlotte specifically to open my practice. I could have been one of any number of gay attorneys in Boston, but in Charlotte, I knew that I could really make a difference. And I've been so very fortunate to have just wonderful clients and being able to be active in the community. I have happy clients, and I'm very, very fortunate.
What do you consider the definition of activism, or what does activism mean for you?
Probably working for change at whatever level of policy, of a practice, of laws, of attitude, people's attitudes, and education. Educating people about who we are as a community. And, we're not monolithic. We're all kinds of people.
Sure.
That's the beauty of it, the diversity of it. But I've been doing this since probably before many of your listeners were born. I've been doing this since '94. So I came up during the AIDS epidemic, before it was even called AIDS, and bar raids, and being a couple but getting a 2-bedroom apartment because you didn't want the landlord to know, and you had your bedroom and the other bedroom, all of that kind of thing. Having a picture on my desk with my girlfriend and another friend, a guy friend, because I couldn't have just my girlfriend's picture on my desk, things like that. And so I know where we've been and how far we've come, and now I see some of that at risk.
Okay. How, speaking about that, obviously looking at you as a battery, or we can have a cup as an analogy. How do you keep your cup full and coming back? Because what you're taking on is no small feat. I mean, you've been there, you've done it, and it looks like you're still bright-eyed and ready to go after it, and still have that zest. How do you maintain the mental health and the energy and the creativity, the wanting to come back?
I appreciate you saying that. I'm actually not as active as I would like to be, but I have had some burnout. So I kind of pick and choose where I show up. And, good friends are a big help. Self-care, whether that's staying at home and reading a book, taking time away, and always remembering that, the change we want isn't going to happen on its own. And, there's always work to do. But I've had times that I've been pretty burned out and had to step way back. And I'd say I'm not as active as I would like to be, but I also just need to, take care of myself.
Okay. Is there a specific time when it is time to step away, or actually when is it time to step back in? Like when your burnout is over and you're like, okay, I'm ready to come back. Is there moments?
When something sparks me, and some of it is figuring out different ways. So I've sat on boards of directors and, a number of different boards of directors over the years, and I kind of don't do that much anymore. I've really figured out that what works best for me at this point is getting involved in something that has a beginning, a middle, and end. So maybe I'm on a planning committee for, an event of some sort. I like that, a feeling of accomplishment at the end.
Okay, so more project-based rather than open-ended?
That's where I'm at right now, yeah.
Okay, all right. Let me see. Who do you still admire, or who did you admire growing up, and did you pattern yourself after somebody, or did you forge your own path?
In terms of lawyers, of attorneys, there's a man named Charles Hamilton Houston, Thurgood Marshall, Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
RBG.
Yeah, probably rolling in her grave.
I've seen you work out before, so you're kind of RBG in your own right.
And Pauli Murray.
Okay. And is Pauli Murray local, or is? So
Pauli Murray was born in Virginia, I believe, but grew up in the Durham area. In fact, the house where they grew up, there's a Pauli Murray house, an organization in Durham.
Okay. Awesome. Actually, circling back to something we talked about earlier, planning, either estate planning, that kind of stuff. Have you started planning for if I pass and then my phone goes somewhere and there's passwords, and like we have Google password and all these different vaults for our passwords, or what happens, but what are we supposed to do? Have you started touching that at all?
Sure. So there's a couple of different things. One is to do your legacy settings on anything that you can. Okay. So iPhone has legacy settings, Facebook, Insta have legacy settings.
What does legacy settings mean?
So a legacy setting is if I die, this is who can access my stuff. Some people really like password vaults. You mentioned that. Something else that people can do is when you do your will, you leave your phone and your data and your tablets and your computers, you leave them to somebody, because the law says then that those people then can access that. So one of the things let me say one other thing. There's also it's just a 2-page legal document called a digital assets authorization that can be done. And essentially what that does is authorizes whoever is in your online world, whether it's your banking, your streaming services, your website, your social media, your Amazon account, whatever it may be, it authorized that entity to listen to the person that you have in place, who is not you, to listen to them and take instruction from them, just like they would from you. So one of the things that we're seeing is technology always moves faster than the law. So one of the things that we're seeing is money on the table from online betting, from Etsy
I didn't even think
pages,
about that.
from OnlyFans, from
Venmo.
Yeah, from Venmo, right? And as you can, there's not a physical place that you can walk in and say, hey, give me my money, right? And so there are just lawsuit after lawsuit happening these last few years trying to get people's money back. Or get their money that's their money.
I never even thought about that.
These entities,
crypto wallets or any of that.
Yeah, all of that. And cryptocurrency, its privacy, its secrecy is its thing, right? That's great until all that's sitting out there and nobody can get to it. So it's some responsibility on your part to have a plan in place, because again, that's your money. Like this isn't legal advice, but I'll make a suggestion. I don't know why people would ever leave any money sitting in a Cash App account or a Venmo account. As soon as it hits, turn around and put it where it needs to be. It's not a bank. And if something happens, you risk losing it. And again, with all the online betting, there's just money sitting out there, and those entities are not incentivized in any way, shape, or form.
Why would they give it back?
That's exactly right. And again, there's not a physical place that you can walk into and talk to somebody.
Okay. So I know that's not necessarily legal advice, but if somebody was listening, all of a sudden, oh crap, I need to make sure that all my stuff is together, I'll prioritize. Is that something that they could reach out to you for?
We can definitely have that conversation, sure.
Okay. And where would they find you?
So my website is cjvlaw.com, and you can contact me through that. Talk or text 704-333-4000.
Oh, that's an easy phone number.
I know.
333-4000. I can't remember most things, but I can remember that one.
Yeah, I'm fortunate with that. Yep.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about today that you would like the listeners to know?
Thank you for asking. Yes. A couple of things. One is that being married is all you need to do for your estate planning. And that is not true. It's not true for different sex couples, and it's not true for same-sex couples. All marriage does is gives your spouse some rights of inheritance and decision-making if your marriage is recognized. So, for example, for same-sex couples who are married, who are traveling outside the United States, I encourage them to do a healthcare directive or a healthcare power of attorney. And the reason is just because they're married, that person then becomes a medical decision maker for you if you're not able to do it yourself. But if you land in a country, if you find yourself in a country that doesn't recognize your marriage, then it doesn't recognize their decision making. And imagine the feel free to wait in the lobby conversation.
Who would that decision kick to if your partner's not recognized?
Your next of kin. Next of kin is family.
Okay.
Adult children, parents, siblings.
But if you're in a foreign country, they might not be able to find that person, right?
Well, they'll find them eventually. I mean, it's 2025.
Okay. Fair. Fair. Understood.
And I'll say to, people say, well, I won't travel to those countries. But planes get diverted. Cruise ships get diverted. Trains don't get diverted so much because,
Just stop.
But things get diverted. And so that's just one of those things that's important to do. The other misconception is that for a family who has children, they're married and have children, so both names are on the birth certificate, that's all you need to do to be a fully recognized legal parent. And that is also not true. In North Carolina, parentage is determined by biology, genetics, or adoption. Those are the two choices. And so if a blood test could show that you're not the parent, then you're at risk at not being recognized as the parent. And so that's been a very strong misconception. We're so happy that people are on birth certificates. We work to make that happen, but it's not enough. It is an indication of parentage, but it's not proof of parentage.
Would they need to take the extra step of doing the formal adoption? Okay.
Yes. As a little bit of an aside, for people who are not married, again, nobody should have to get married. Marriage is a choice. But some people have families or building families, and they're not married and do not want to be married. There's not an option in North Carolina to get legal rights, but there is an option in some other states. And if somebody's interested in that, they can contact me, and I can connect them with an attorney who can help.
Okay. So again, www.cjvlaw.com, and then 704-333-4000.
Look at you.
I didn't even look down. That was great. I am so impressed with myself.
So something else, I guess, if you don't mind, I haven't talked much about the trans and gender non-binary and gender non-conforming community or gender diverse community. And I want to touch on that because I think that there is some misinformation out about that with regard to the president's executive orders about we're not going to update gender markers on passports and Social Security. And that's on the federal level. But that doesn't mean that you cannot update that information on your birth certificate and driver's license. North Carolina has a very easy way to correct the gender marker on somebody's driver's license. It's a form. And correcting, if you were born in North Carolina has a fairly straightforward, has a means that you don't have to use an attorney to correct the gender marker on your North Carolina birth certificate. And most states do. There's only a couple of states that don't allow that. So that's just, the passport is a deal, but that's that. It doesn't affect anything under North Carolina law. Name changes, gender marker corrections, no surgery required. You just do it.
Okay. I know you're in different practice areas, but for, I guess, estate planning, is that a very time-consuming process? Is it expensive? Is it... I'm sure it's not like going through the drive-through at Bojangles, but is it one of those painstaking sort of situations?
So here's the thing. It's not free. And I would discourage people in our community from doing online forms because they were not designed for us or our families and our loved ones. And estate planning is one of those things that you kind of get what you pay for.
Okay.
And I can tell you that for some people, maybe you did an online form of some sort, and maybe that's going to work, or maybe it's going to end up costing your loved ones a boatload of money on the back end.
Okay.
So, yeah, it costs what it costs.
Okay. I think that's a great place to end just because you get what you pay for. And nothing's free in life really, but in order to make sure that everything is protected and you're taking control of your destiny and life, which is what you said up front, you get what you pay for.
Yeah. It's not going to break the bank, but it is, what is expensive is from each person's point of view.
Sure.
But it is something that I strongly suggest that you invest in, just like you invest in yourself and your family and your work and your community. This is not the place to cut corners. And if you're working, you're probably doing some of this stuff, right? You're growing wealth. You've got your 401k and things like that. And then let me just say this too. There are also things that you can do that don't cost anything, like making sure that you have a beneficiary named on your bank account, like you being sure that you have a beneficiary named on your investments, your 401k, your life insurance. Just because that thing goes in the way that it's supposed to go. You get to say that, and you don't need an attorney to do that. You just name it.
Free and quick. Mm-hmm. Understood. Well, Connie, thank you so much for being with us today on this episode of Sweet Tea and Economy, and you're welcome back anytime. You are delightful, and I appreciate you so much. Thank you. You're welcome. Have a great day, everyone.